BHL, some different ways in which you might not know you can use BHL, stuff you can pass on to users, and things that you can also use yourself sort of in your everyday workflow. And of course, everybody's got a different workflow, everybody's got different tasks. This is a bit of how I actually use BHL in my everyday, day-to-day life. So my title is User Services Librarian, which, as I say to the folks at Cal Academy, means it's my job to do everything I can to help you do your job better. We're also directorless at the moment, so I have to do I shouldn't say I have to. It is my pleasure to do reference and systems and acquisitions, serials, oversee technical services, supervise ILL, basically deal with everything published. We have a small but extremely dedicated staff. It's just under 3 full-time equivalents total for the library and the archives. And we've got 3 part-time library assistants, some who do more archives work and some who do more library work. We've got a lot of interns, we've got a lot of volunteers. You might be understanding that I'm setting you up for the fact that time saving and time management are really big parts of my job, and that's one of the things that BHL really helps me with. So I'm just going to launch in. Okay, so the Biodiversity Heritage Library, you all know a little bit about it, you know where to find it, and I'm hoping that you know it is devoted to scanning and preserving the legacy literature of biodiversity, making this literature available free online, enabling open access to data, and facilitating access to scientific information. So what is BHL is a question that sometimes comes up. BHL is all of these words that you see up here on the screen, but that doesn't really sum it up. Is it animal, vegetable, or mineral? BHL does a lot of things for a lot of people. And sometimes the question comes up of what exactly are all trying to do? That's one of my dogs, by the way. You can tell how cute he is. So, BHL is several things. It's about technology, science, and libraries. I've actually, with permission, cribbed this idea from the BHL technical director, Chris Freeland, who did a talk about this about a year ago. Sort of classifying BHL as a technology project that supports scientists and librarians. And I think that's a really good way to think about BHL, with all due credit to Chris Freeland, because Biodiversity Heritage Library doesn't work entirely like a library product that you might be used to, and it doesn't work necessarily like a tool for conducting scientific research that you might be used to. It is doing, it is balancing a lot of different things and wearing a few different hats. And I think it's always important to remember that when you go into actually using it. This isn't an out-of-the-box library product, and that's one of the good things about it. So there's great technology going on with BHL. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what an Internet Archive Scribe book scanner looks like. Over here we've got an example of the really cool WonderFetch template that we use to actually get metadata over to Internet Archive so that they can put the right information with the right books that we send. We've also got our open source code project going on. Important technology is happening under the BHL mantle. There's really great science innovation going on in association with BHL too. I think one of the things that a lot of librarians find most useful is the name bank and taxon finder project going on, launched by UBio out of MBL, Marine Biological Laboratory, Woods Hole. That helps you actually find information at the level of the taxonomic name in BHL and in EOL. We'll talk a bit about that later. And then, of course, the libraries, the part that we get all excited about. There's a lot of really great library stuff going on under the BHL header, including really cool in-browser ebook readers, stuff that's going on at the Internet Archive to enable us to actually download our texts onto mobile devices, Kindles, things like that. And then, of course, there's really fantastic metadata work going on as well. So what are the great things about BHL? It's got a global reach and a global impact. These little points that you see are places all over the world where we have, all over the United States and all over the world, that's me right there, where we have partners doing various kinds of BHL work, our affiliates in other countries, in China, in Europe, in South America, in Australia. Some of these people are doing tech work, some of these people are doing library work, some of these people are doing science work, and we all come together to make sort of a suite of products and tools that libraries can really stand to benefit from using and utilizing at the highest levels. We've also got users all over the world, which I like to point out. This is our, as you can see, our October 1st to January 31st. This is from Google Analytics, showing the visitors. So there's 292,304 visits coming from 207 countries and territories during that quarter, and you can see them all graphically represented on the map here. Not too many places in the world where you've actually got a white space, so that's really cool. There are people all over the place accessing BHL. So how do you use it? You guys mostly know how to use BHL, so I'm not going to go too much into that, although I am going to point out some new things. You may have noticed that there's a new user interface. Those of us who are librarians who work with BHL, especially people like me who are doing reference work, are very, 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 very happy about this. There's new methods to search, and there's more fields that are indexed, and that means better results for your users and better results for you when you're searching. I know Susie's here, so I have to say it. I was so very, very, very happy when series titles were indexed. You can now search series titles. This is pretty much the greatest thing that's ever happened to me in my professional life. It's something I had wanted for so long. And I'm actually going to hop on over and I'm going to try out some of your new technology. I'm going to hop on over and just show you a little bit about the new UI. If it lets me do it. Come on. I know there's a link. Do it. All right, that didn't work. Okay, so here we are. You're supposed to be able to use your hands, but we'll figure that out. So here we are, live at www.biodiversitylibrary.org. You may be used to just having sort of your basic search and then your ability to browse that you see up here. But as you can see, there's a set of tabs here now to really kind of break out some of the search capability. So you can do your books and journals, you can search by authors, by subjects, scientific names. That's still the same scientific name search that we've had before. If you've used it before, I'll show you it a little later if you haven't. We also have our citation finder, which is in beta. So it's actually kind of explains a little bit about to you here about using BHL's Open URL Resolver to search individual pages. It's in beta. That's maybe the nicest way to say it. I've had a little bit of success with it. I'm certainly happy to try something out maybe a little later toward the end of the presentation when we see how much time we have left. I'm perfectly happy to go back to this and fool around. Also, I'm perfectly happy to go back to anything that you see during the course of this and play around with it a little more, so don't be shy about that. But the first thing I want to show is that you've got a little bit more capability to search that you didn't have before. And so I'm going to try something real quick, which, damn you, autofill. You can tell I typed it in earlier. I'm going to do a really quick search. I was actually just testing this out because I hadn't tried this with this particular character before. And I know that John Vandenberg, who is a herpetologist, published some really important occasional papers for my institution, the California Academy of Sciences. But he published a lot. And I want to see just what he published in the occasional papers. So I'm going to search on that.
They're not snakes by any chance, are they?
He did a lot of tortoise stuff. There's probably snake stuff in there, I think. Yeah. Oh, you don't like snakes? Okay, good to know. All right, good to know. I'll warn you when the slide with the snake on it is coming up. But okay, so you can see when I did this, it actually gave me 5 results. They're all from the occasional papers of the California Academy of Sciences, which is nice, actually, to be able to have that ability. I think everybody who deals with the public has had somebody come up to them and they say, so this guy wrote this paper, and I think it was in 1947, and it was either in Nature or Science. And that's all the information you have to go. Oh, and I had it once before on my desk, and it was bound, and the cover was blue.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, all of that. This advanced, the ability to do these advanced searches is a way of trying to mitigate that, of trying to kind of get below the shell and crack into sort of the sweet meat of the bibliographic record and try to figure out, to try to help you target that stuff. It's not perfect. But it's developing. Citation Finder should be even more exciting as that continues, where you can type in the journal number, volume, issue number, year, start page, and actually go right to something. I'll be brave and give it a shot right now. So I'm going to go to my proceedings, and I'm going to say that I want 1911. I haven't done this before, so I'm going to see what it tells me. All right. So you can see it didn't narrow it just to 1911. But if I view, yeah, it didn't even, the first record it gave me wasn't even 1911. It at least got me to the title, and it broke out the title in ways that I can browse to 1911. So, again, beta, developing, based on various bits of information that come into BHL through the Open URL resolver. Again, won't be perfect. We'll continue to develop, but I think you can imagine somebody walking up to your reference desk or you needing to verify a citation and something like this being really, really handy. Again, the scientific name search, which I'll demonstrate a little bit later. The subject is more or less a browse search. This isn't going to act, it's going to search the beginning string of the subject name. It's not going to search interior. So if you're looking for reptiles -- New Zealand, I may have just done a wrong geographic subheading. I'm sorry, I don't catalog much anymore. Searching New Zealand isn't going to help you there because it's got to be a browse from the beginning of the string. Authors or corporate meeting name, that's always so nice to see. As anyone who does a lot of catalog searching and deals with lots of proceedings and such knows. In fact, any of these should work just pretty much the same way. I'm going to go and do my Vandenberg.
And is that corporate or meeting name, is that keyword or is that again a browse?
That's gonna pull up the same kind of results as you see here. So it's gonna browse from the beginning. As far as I know. Let me try it, actually. I tend to think in browse, so for me that just tends to be how I approach things, but just let me try. There's got to be a meeting with entomologist in it.
Oh, you had Van, what's his name?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that's going to be the same kind of, it's going to be the same sort of browse. What's nice about that is browsing is actually pretty easy in BHL, but it's a little bit screen real estate intensive, if you know what I mean. If you go to the browse links up here and you browse by authors, which will pull up all the same information, you've got to sort of page through the alphabet. And then, if you're lazy like me, you then do a Control F to try to find what you're looking for. Where instead, if you go from here, it's going to take you right there, rather than you having to page through all of the screens. Does that make sense? Okay. The general search is pretty much the same as it always was. Remember to perform a simple search, enter an exact phrase, because keywords will not return. It's not a googly keyword search.
That's a key point.
Yes. Yeah. That is one of the hardest things with BHL, especially with users, is that this isn't sort of a fuzzy logic googly type of thing. People have a lot of trouble with that. Again, I think as librarians, we would all love it if it did that, but we have to remember that BHL is wearing 3 very big hats, and there's a lot of different service points there. I think those of us who worked with folks on the tech side of BHL to get our new user interface are really, really happy. We know it's not perfect. We're working toward that. Working toward perfection is always a good way to look at any project you're involved in. But it's definitely, it's enhanced, it's working a bit better, we're getting there. Before I move on, I did want to point out the browse search a little bit more. I browse a lot in BHL. Like I said, I think I just have a card catalog head. I just kind of want to get to the beginning and, just look through my subjects alphabetically. That's just kind of how I go, or my titles, or my authors. There's a few really nice things about the browsing. As I mentioned, if you're a bad typist, like me, sometimes you search and it doesn't turn anything up, but when you browse, you find it. Of course, when you're dealing with foreign languages, or again, meetings and proceedings and corporate authors, can be difficult to actually figure out how the author, or the title of something for that matter, is actually going to be listed. So the browse can be really helpful for that. Subjects retains this sort of nice map that lets you, I know, for example, when somebody comes to me and says, do you have a pretty picture of a bird? I'm like, hold on, let me go there, pictorial works. All right, let me look for something with bird in the title, and then I can send them that way. The browsing by year is also very helpful, because occasionally that does come up as well. So if you want something really old, you know that something may be in a particular set of years, particularly for really old things. If you want to go in, you can actually select that, and then again, you can do a Control F find within the browser to look for keywords. That's something I do a lot. And then we also have this cool map, which I haven't worked with a lot, but I really like, if it loads. Like any good visiting speaker, I'm going to blame technology for anything that goes wrong in this presentation. But let's see if the map will load. I'm going to say continue. We're going to try that once.
There are no specific browser requirements for BHL, is there?
I could lie and say that you should all be using Chrome and Firefox, because those are what I prefer. Okay, the map's not going to load.
It looks like a browser issue.
Yeah, I haven't found too much browser trouble. Has anybody in the room had browser compatibility issues with BHL? I think the technical folks are pretty good about trying to, spec things up so that stuff works well. I personally just don't use Internet Explorer. I prefer to use standards-based browsers. So, oh, you have me on tape saying that.
We can delete it.
But yeah, I haven't had any browser compatibility problems at all. I've used it on. Oh, there it is! Yay, map. Come on, show something. And I've used. Do I have my phone out? Yeah, I use BHL on my phone. I use BHL with. I was just using BHL with Safari on my little laptop yesterday. I usually use Chrome or Firefox at work. I haven't had anybody have any issues with browsers that they've reported to me. The map is kind of fun because if it's working, which this one is not seeming to do so hot. Oh, there we go. It actually gives you kind of a neat little graphic representation of places where things have been published. And if you click, I don't think it's 100% operational right now. If you click on the dots, see there's the dot for Yorkshire. It's going to show you titles that have Yorkshire listed in the publication field. It's probably more of a party trick than anything else, but it is kind of cool to show people.
Is there, like Google has its labs, is there a BHL lab?
We do have BHL Bits, which is the Google Code hosted open source coding project. That I think it's mostly the folks from Missouri Botanical Garden are doing a lot of work with. But that stuff is out there. You can find it. And it's interesting to kind of poke through and see what they're doing. Okay, so we've done a little bit of searching. Again, we'll have some time later, I'm planning, so that we can actually take some requests and do some targeted searching around, so don't be shy about that. Are you going to advance? Okay, we browsed. Scientific names. We're going to talk about our scientific names now. So we have the scientific name search. You've got a tab now for that. Before you could search scientific names in the search box that you see up in the upper right. But now there's a tab that actually goes into a little bit more detail about how to do that. Let's see if it takes me back to my browser of choice, which it should. No, really? Okay.
Printer?
I swear I'm not trying to print anything. So if we go back, go away. So if we go back and go to scientific names, it actually does a nice little sort of explanation about how this works. The scientific names are, it uses the UBio Taxon Finder, Taxonomic Intelligence Service. The names are found based on the OCR. As everybody knows who's had any dealings with OCR, OCR is not perfect. And so you can't tell a user that this is going to find everything in BHL with that name, because that just isn't feasible at the point. But it's a good starting point. I actually really like to show this to graduate students. Really? Go away. I really like to show this to graduate students who are kind of just getting started on their literature searches, because they tend to come in pretty overwhelmed. It's their first real exposure to systematic biology in a serious way. They're kind of stunned by the literature, and often at the academy, one of the first things the grad student has to do, of course, is go and do all this bibliographic research. And some of them are really freaked out because the books are really old and they're in languages they don't speak, and they're just a little bit panicked about how they're going to find all of that information. So I like to show them the name search. I think it's actually a really great way to just kind of get them oriented to this. So if this will cooperate, I will actually show you a little bit about how it works. So hope I spelled that right. All right. So I typed in a scientific name. It works with uninomials, binomials, and trinomials. So I type that in. I find, does anybody know what Chirodamma salvini is? They're really cute. They're these little white-faced bats. They're adorable. And if you click on this, it's going to load this nice downloadable spreadsheet that tells you where the name has shown up, and you can go right to the page. And so that is actually, and you can see all the other names that are on the page as well. The grad students in particular love this because it really helps them sort of dive in a way that feels safe and controlled, and it's not just, hey, here's 33 million pages of taxonomic literature, good luck, kid. You know, this actually helps them kind of get into it and get used to navigating and using BHL in a way that makes sense to them. So I really like the name finding feature. It's also great, again, when people walk up, this happens to the archivist at the academy and to me all the time, where people kind of wander up to your desk and they say, I know that somebody in our proceedings described this thing at some point in history. Can you help me? And our proceedings are in BHL, and so one of the things you can do, you can download this sheet as comma-separated values, but you can also sort various fields within here, and you can sort by title. And so one of the things that we'll often do when somebody asks that question is we'll do the name search in BHL, and if we get the results, we'll go to the bibliography, we'll sort by title, we'll go to all of the Cal Academy's publications, and then look through to see if we can actually find that item. And we've had really good luck with that. It's actually worked pretty well. Because we've been around since 1853, and we've been publishing for a lot of that time. So, hey, I know you published something about this thing sometime in the past. It doesn't help us find it very regularly. But this is actually a really useful tool for that. Okay. Let's continue. So again, just a view of how the name finder works. All right, so back over, downloading. Has everybody downloaded something from BHL? Everyone has? Good. If you want any examples about downloading later, feel free to, I'll demo it, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it if it's things that people already know how to do. When you're in the BHL portal and you pull up a text, there's a great little pull-down menu that gives you information about the book and lets you select how you would like to download things. For all of you who are wondering, I'm giving a talk to researchers this afternoon, and we're going to spend a lot of time on how you download stuff. So hopefully that will get a lot of good questions answered from their perspective. But yeah, it's pretty easy. It works well.
But you're welcome to attend that afternoon session too, if you want.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm planning this to have plenty of time after this for any kind of demoing that you want to see. So if anybody wants to actually go through the steps of downloading something or has in-depth questions about downloading, we can definitely come back to this. I just don't want to bore you all as I make PDFs. I feel like that's not really the best use of your time. Reading. There's a lot of different ways to read things in BHL, which I'm often surprised that a lot of people don't realize that. I'm going to go back to BHL now. Oh good, it loaded quickly this time. So here we are, looking at one of our texts that's in there. One of the things I'd like to point out is that down on the bottom, I'm going to wiggle my mouse down here, the contributing institution is down at the bottom there. I point that out because users, my users will sometimes ask, well, whose copy is this? Or, well, I looked at Smithsonian's copy or Harvard's copy on BHL, but can I see our copy now because I want to compare? And of course I would say yes, that's a perfectly legitimate thing. Sometimes people want to know where it came from. There is legitimacy lent by saying, hey, there's a book here from one of these major natural history institutions that's part of BHL. And so I just wanted to point that out in case you didn't know that that was there. You can always also get that information from the bibliographic information as well. If you expand your scan details, it will also tell you information about where the book came from and when it was scanned.
It doesn't say which library within our system.
No, it doesn't. Is there anything? I'm going to put Sue's on the spot. There's nothing in the metadata or anything that would indicate that, would there?
Like the mollusk library?
No, I mean, if you click on details, I can show you we mapped our mark to mod, so if you click on detail there, I guess we don't even save the location code anywhere. No.
That's
Yeah,
not
save
critical.
branch.
It's not critical, I was just curious.
Thanks, Suze. Okay, so I want to go back where I was. So lovely page. You've got some options for page viewing and working with pages here. You can, of course, zoom, get in nice and close, see the lovely details. You can also do a two-up, sort of a side-by-side flippy book, which some people like for reading purposes. One of the things that a lot of people I've discovered that a lot of people don't know that you can do from within the portal here is if you just want to save or print an image of just that one page that's up, you can go over to this print button. And it'll open just that page. You don't have to, if you don't care about getting a PDF, you just want a graphic image of that, or you just want to print it out, so you can run it downstairs to a colleague and tell them they were wrong or something. You can do it right from in there, that little print icon will do that for you. Because I didn't really go into it, but I'm guessing that you all know with PDF generation with BHL, it's not an instantaneous process. You select the pages you want to download, you hit the send button, you get an email saying we're processing it, and then you get an email saying it's done. So if you need one page really quick, that's a good way to actually just grab it. Right. No, I don't want to go back there. I wanted to advance. Okay, so there you see the two-up page reader that I mentioned. You can go to Internet Archive. And in fact, if you want to do a lot of things, you should go to Internet Archive fairly easily from BHL. In fact, I'm trying to show you, but it's being a little obnoxious, so... no! I'm going to blame it on the new technology. All right. I know I can get back from there. So from any page viewing BHL, there's an opportunity to download lots of different things. There's also a View at Internet Archive tab, or menu choice, I should say. So if you go over there, you get to see the book. Our books are scanned at and served up by BHL, but there's more in-depth information provided through the BHL portal. But one of the things that Internet Archive is doing is they've got a lot of different options for reading and downloading the books. One thing that you can do is read online with their book reader. So here we've got the book reader. One of the nice things about their book reader, it's got a pretty good search. So I'm just going to do a quick search. You can see it's dropped these sort of little googly-esque map tabs down at the bottom. And when you mouse over them, it's going to show you what it found. But you can click on any one, and it's going to take you right to that point in page, or in the book. Which is kind of neat. The other things that you can do from here, of course, you've got the ability to just sort of page through. This is great if you're doing some sort of presentation and you want the book turning in the background. You can just kind of click that and walk away and do your stuff. It can also read aloud to you. Oh, but it can't because audio playback is disabled on this computer. Oh wait, maybe it will work. It will read aloud to you. The other thing that Internet Archive is offering for their text is a download of a DAISY file, which is for the visually impaired to be read. I'm not going to wait on this too long because I have a sneaking suspicion it's probably not going to work. We'll just go back to the slideshow, and if it starts talking, we'll toggle back over to the internet, and you can actually hear that. So I'll just page through. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of different options that you have for downloading your files of your texts from Internet Archive. So we talked about reading online, PDF, DAISY is for the visually impaired, full text. You can get all the files. And then some other things that I've been playing around with recently are the EPUB and other e-reader files, which I think are pretty interesting. These are screenshots from my phone, my actual real phone, that I took while I was playing around with this. So here you see me downloading something from Internet Archive. In the middle is what happens when the EPUB file has finished loading, and it gives me the option of which of my apps I'd like to open it in. I've got a couple of e-reading apps on my phone. I've got iBooks, I've got Kobo, I may have another one or two, but those are free, and you can get them easily from the App Store for anybody who's using an iPad, an iPod Touch, or an iPhone. And they allow you to sort of take your books with you. There's also a Mobi file, so you have the opportunity to download things to your Kindle. I actually don't have a Kindle, but I have the free Kindle app, and so I actually can also access the Mobi files as well. And so here are more screenshots of my iPhone, just sort of showing how things actually look when you load them in. So this is the Kobo view. So it's got this nice title page from Zoological Journal. The middle is the Kindle app that shows you my library with the birds of Chile that I've downloaded from Internet Archive. And on the far right, you see the iBooks view, actually, of the shell book that I've got pulled up right now. Many of these apps have desktop applications as well. Kobo's got a desktop or a laptop application, as does iBooks, I believe. You can also use Adobe Digital Reader, which is a sort of not browser-based, desktop software application that you can download for free that allows you to manage and view various kinds of EPUB files. So those are all ways that you can actually get these things and take them with you, so you can use them even when you don't have internet. And I've actually been talking a lot to my researchers about this stuff because they're pretty accustomed now to PDFs, to reading online, but a lot of them are getting Kindles, a lot of them are getting smartphones, and a lot of them spend a lot of time in places in the field where you don't have internet. You have electricity to charge your phone, but you don't have internet. And I think that there's something pretty fun and exciting about the idea that you can actually bring a library with you in your pocket. Especially because some of the better apps, I actually like iBook quite a bit, has really good search capabilities as well. So folks can actually bring that stuff and have the same kind of search capability that they would have from an OCR PDF file in their office back in San Francisco. The images from BHL are quite high quality. I like to point this out, not just pretty pictures, but also just the text itself. I know some researchers that I have met, when you say, oh, that's digitized and available online, immediately sort of cross their arms and say, but it just looks like a photocopy or a microfiche, and I don't want that. I want something that looks good. And so usually people are pretty excited to see that the image quality and the text quality in BHL are actually really wonderful.
I've had a scientist who works with really tiny, like dinoflagellates, very small specimens and small drawings even, and he's been perfectly happy with the quality of BHL.
Yeah, we've had really, really good response at my institution because, again, the scanning that's going on here is generally better than my folks can capture on our department scanners and photocopiers anyway. So if they say, I want to see the book, I'll say, sure. That's one thing I should say, I never deny people access to a book, even though it's in BHL. I'll happily pull things for anybody who wants them. But sometimes they'll see it in text and they'll say, okay, now I want to make a photocopy. And I'll say, why don't we see if that's in BHL? And that way you don't have to cram my book in the photocopier and you'll actually get something that's useful. I say it nicer than that. Okay, so why should I use BHL? This is my salesman part of the presentation. And of course, I already went on the photocopy rant. That's my photocopier at my job at the California Academy of Sciences. You can see it does not have a book edge. And one of the greatest things about BHL is the savings of paper and of conservation and repair costs. We all know what happens to books when they get crammed into photocopiers. And we know that it's not even just, oh, that's a rare book, let me photocopy it for you issue. You know, every time you get something in those nice, fresh buckram journal volume bindings, and they look so beautiful, and then you hear that sort of squeaky, crunchy sound from the corner, and you go over, and somebody's just leaning all of their body weight on that book trying to get a good copy. And that's something that BHL can help us avoid. So one of the ways I like to think of it is you spare the books and you spoil the user in a good way. Because if there's anything that people really want, it's not just the information in that photocopy. They want it in a good format. That's why they're leaning all of their body weight on that book, because they want a good, clean copy that they can actually use. And I have had so many students and researchers who are just stunned and amazed and grateful that they don't have to sort of waste their time. And then people know they're damaging the books. I mean, they're smart people. They know they're doing, you find them around the corner doing that, and they just look like, the dog who's been counter surfing, they just look so upset. So they know it's a bad thing. They're generally really excited to have the opportunity to get those clean scans or clean copies that they really need. And of course, with more abilities with e-readers now, they're also having the ability to get those books and take them away with them in a way that, especially for rare materials, they haven't had before. Easy, convenient, and time-saving. As I have mentioned to some of you in depth and to all of you very briefly, I have a really small staff. So there's fewer than 3 full-time equivalents librarians. We've got 3 wonderful library assistants, a lot of interns and volunteers, and we're serving a core research staff of about 100, and that includes PhDs, collection managers, curatorial assistants, graduate students, visiting researchers from all around the world. They're not actually counted in the 100 totals. And a lot of those folks, of course, have very in-depth requests and a lot of demands. We also support the rest of the museum in general. So exhibits, education, all of those people are coming to us for information. And there's just not a lot of us. And so one of the things that's really great is that BHL has proven to be a real time saver. If somebody needs a page from the proceedings of the California Academy of Sciences, rather than getting up from my desk and walking over to my SciPub shelf and flipping through and finding that page and then sending it off for a scan or scanning it myself, I've got it right there in BHL. Again, it's going to be a nicer looking, higher quality image than I'm going to get off of my office photocopier or scanner, and I can just send that right to them. This happens also a lot with articles. I get folks contacting me from the field in a tizzy saying, I really, really need this article. I found something in the field and I need help identifying it. Can you get me this article? Again, instead of having to go and find it on the shelf, do the scan or the photocopy, get it all prepared and send it off to the person, which may or may not then get bounced from their email due to the size of the scan I've created. I can just go to BHL, find the article, make a PDF. I actually included this because as I was capturing the screenshot of your PDF request received, the BHL email screen popped up at the bottom from my Outlook saying that my request had been received, so it was pretty immediate. And then about 30 seconds later, I actually got the PDF, so it worked really fast in that case. But it's definitely a really, really big time saver. It's also really convenient. I've learned today that you guys don't sit in close proximity to your collection, or most of it, which I didn't know. My collection is in a sort of closed stacks area. There's so few of us that every time I have to get up from my desk to page something, there's a chance I'm not going to be there for people who need me. And you guys know what library patrons are like. They walk in, they look around, they see no one's there, they hang their head, and they leave. And so it's real. And then you get an angry email later that you weren't at your desk when they needed you. So one of the great things about this is I can do a lot of the historical research and reference work that I need to do right from my desk. I actually don't have to abandon ship, as it were, to go and page a bunch of things, because I can get a lot done just right from my web browser. Same goes for other research projects I'm working on. For my own purposes, I don't have to be the one who's sort of feeling guilty about leaning on that journal trying to get the copy. I can get copies that I need for my ongoing projects of legacy literature right from BHL. Quick communication, that's Chiroderma salvini, by the way, the cute white-faced bat. So the quick communication aspect is really, really fantastic. These persistent URLs that link to every single individual page as well as every single item level description in BHL are really handy, because when somebody calls you up or sends you an email and says, I need this book from the Rare Book Room, when can I make an appointment to use it? Or I need this book, can you page it and bring it downstairs to me? It's a lot faster, a lot of times, to go into BHL, find the item, and be able to send the persistent URL to someone. It's also great for off-site researchers or visiting researchers, or people who call to make an appointment to say, you're the only institution in the area that has this. Can I come and look at your copy? And we always say, yes, but you can also look at it here and send the link to the persistent URL of the starting page to the individual. And I would say it's about 50-50. Sometimes they are so thrilled and they send you an amazing email about how grateful they are because now they don't have to sit in traffic for 2 hours. And then about 50% of the time they either say, that's great, I want to see the book anyway, and we say, let's make an appointment. Or they say, now that you've saved me all that time, I have a more in-depth area that I want to look in because you've given me my background. When can I make an appointment to come in? Which is always nice. Reference Without Borders is my way of putting the biggest thing that BHL helps me accomplish. This is our map of sort of recent and current fieldwork going on at the California Academy of Sciences. And so you can see only one person is doing active research in North America right now. Everybody else is out really concentrated in the island communities and coastal communities. That's where we do a lot of our research. We're big on island endemics and things like that. These folks are away a lot, and even when they're at the academy, their field associates and their colleagues are pretty much still in the field, or at least at local institutions. And so when folks are away, they obviously don't have physical access to the collections at the Cal Academy, or frankly, pretty much anywhere else that's got that legacy literature. The statistic that I'm going to flub, because I can't remember the exact numbers, is about how the vast majority of the undiscovered biodiversity in the world is in these places, and all the libraries that have the information that you need to properly describe all that undescribed biodiversity is all up here. And so BHL has been a really, really great factor, not just for when one of my researchers calls me or sends me an email from the field and says, I have internet access for 12 minutes, can you get me this article? But for their field associates who stay behind in those places and are always working, and who are often working very closely with the specimens and trying to identify things. BHL is great because even if they only have internet access for 12 minutes, they can download a ton of information in that time. And it's just a huge, huge boon. This is also where I'm getting progressively more excited about e-reading technology and BHL, because I'm sure all of you, especially anyone who's worked with the public in an institution like this, has seen the folks getting ready to go in the field, and then there's a curatorial assistant making 17,000 photocopies of pictures of creatures that they're trying to find and identify, of maps, of all sorts of things, of supporting literature that they want to bring with them. And wouldn't it be great if they could just load up a couple of Kindles or load up a couple of small electronic devices and bring that information with them, just to have in the pockets, and then it's not getting, wet in their luggage and, destroyed, and they're not having to carry, 17 reams of paper halfway around the world. So that's something that BHL has really, really helped us with, and I think in a lot of ways it's where the future of projects like this lie, really helping people in parts of the world that don't have ready access to this literature use it in a lot of different ways. Does anyone know Frank Almeida? I don't know if there's any botany people here. Frank and Marcella are two folks who work at the Academy, and I have a little bit of technical problem this morning, and I want to make sure I pronounce the name of the research Marcella's doing correctly. So if you'll give me just a second to page to it. Frank Almeida is a botanist at the Academy. He's been there for quite a while. And this is one of his then graduate students. She's now an employee. Her name is Marcella. And I met Marcella on my third day of work as a librarian at the Academy because she came to the library looking for the Humboldt and Bonpland botanical volume on Rexia. And we don't have it. Although, if any of you have worked with that really big Humboldt-Bonpland voyage set, it's cataloged differently in a lot of different places depending on the parts that people have. And it was actually really difficult to determine whether we had it or not. We spent a lot of time digging around. And it turns out we don't have it. It's giant folio size. So I said, oh, geez, it's my third day of work. Well, we can try to interlibrary loan it, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. No one's going to lend us the whole volume, but maybe someone will image the pages, even though it's a really large folio. And she said, the names have changed so much, I don't even know exactly what I want. I really, really need to just flip through the volume and figure some things out. And I said, okay, let's get a list of libraries that have it, and let's make a pact that whenever one of us goes to one of these libraries, we're going to do what we can for the other one to try and locate what the other person needs. And so pinky swore on it, and we kind of went on our separate ways, and we checked in with each other regularly, and sort of nothing was ever coming up. I would be in places that had it, and I wouldn't be able to get an appointment, or the person who could show it to me wasn't around, and we just didn't really have any luck tracking it down. And then with the launch of BHL, I started to suspect that this was an important enough volume that it might make its way in. And when BHL first launched, and even when we first joined BHL, it wasn't there yet. But I started keeping an eye on the little sort of RSS feed up in the top left corner of every BHL page that tells you about new things that are coming in. And finally, one day, I noticed that work kind of popped up in the sidebar. And so I ran downstairs to find Marcella, and she was working with Frank that day, and tell her that it was there. And I was so excited. And so we ran to a computer, and we hopped on, and we found it, and we downloaded the whole volume. And they were so excited. And now they've got it saved, and all of the students who are working on this project are using that volume. It was a real issue with some of their research. It was kind of considered a blank spot that they hadn't been able to fill for a long time. So they're incredibly enthusiastic. Now they might be the biggest BHL supporters ever, because this was really creating an issue for them, that they could never get their hands on this crucial text that was really that they really needed to fill some gaps in their research. So they're really exciting, and I like to point that out, because sometimes borders aren't international ones or oceans or even technology borders. Sometimes you're in California and you're far away. It's not a train ride to go and check out a different book. Or sometimes I had somebody from Paris contact me recently because they couldn't find a particular book in Europe. And it wasn't a BHL, unfortunately. I had a copy of it, but that happens. That's not a thing of the past. We are all incredibly good libraries. All of the 12 institutions that are part of BHL are great libraries, but there's a reason why there's 12 of us, and we're all contributing to the corpus of literature. It's not like one library's got it all and the rest of us are just along for the ride. It's really important that we do this collaboratively. And so sometimes, as I said, those borders are a lot closer than we'd like to think they are, but it's really made a big difference in their research. So that's one of my favorite BHL success stories. Also, speaking of borders, we have a pretty decent corpus of graduate students at the Academy they have curators who are serving as their advisors. Their curators have adjunct status at San Francisco State University, and so they're doing their research for their master's degrees and their PhDs at the California Academy of Sciences, because it's a chance for them to work with collections and actually study systematic biology. The wrinkle in that is that this is the California Academy of Sciences, and this is the main campus of San Francisco State University. This is a 40-minute to hour ride on public transportation between the two. Most students are on site at the Academy for 1 or 2 days a week during a lot of their graduate studies. And to make it even more complicated, this is San Francisco State University, whose library is currently closed for a renovation. And you've got another mile and a half away. This is the temporary location of Leonard Library out by Lake Merced. So these students, the graduate students, the students that I say with all of the love in my heart need the most help navigating the backdrop of taxonomic literature, are in some cases the most removed from ready access to that literature. So I am dealing with grad students who maybe get 1 or 2 days on site at the academy. They've got a ton of research to do, and they can't take the books out of the academy library. They got to use them on site, and they're there trying to do their research with the collections and get FaceTime with their advisors and do all the other things that graduate students normally have to balance while being really, really separated from the physical resources of their university. And so one of the great things about BHL is, as I mentioned again, using the taxonomic intelligence tools is great because it gives folks a way to jump into BHL, but more importantly, they have access from home or school or wherever they are to a lot of the historic systematic biology literature that they really need to get going in their research. You know, the kind of sort of master's level zoology and botany research that a lot of these folks are doing tends to require a fair amount of time with the real classics of their genres. And the fact that they don't have to be physically sitting in my reading room to do that is a huge bonus to them. I love having them around. I love working with them. They still need a lot of help and introduction, and I think that's wonderful. But I know that they don't need to be wasting their time sitting at my little reference table reading Proceedings of the Zoological Society of London when they could be working in the collections and then reading that at home. Interdisciplinary research is, of course, a really big thing. This is another way BHL really helps me out. I have one copy of this book, which means one user can use it sitting in my reading room while I watch them. There are books at the Academy that people are actually have custody systems worked out for because they're so popular for various fields of research that one person checks them out and then they sign it out from that person's desk when other people want to use it. Because the book is in demand and we only have 1 or 2 copies of it. But with BHL, when a book's in BHL, you have 1 copy and you have unlimited numbers of users who can access it, which again, I really, really wish we could digitize that Ed Ricketts and Steinhardt book about the Sea of Cortez, because I swear there are so many custody battles at the Academy over that particular book. But this has actually turned out to be really helpful to a lot of our expeditions that we're doing now, our interdisciplinary expeditions. We send 6 scientists to the same region of the world to explore a sort of wide swath of flora and fauna. And a lot of times that means that when they get back or in their prep for the field, they all want to be accessing the same historic literature. So BHL is really, really helpful for that. Citizen science is another great use for BHL. For example, we have folks come in all the time who are looking for current information on or pictures of particular organisms. This is the state bird of California, the California quail. And people will come in looking for that information, and sometimes they're doing floor programming for the museum, sometimes they're putting together an educational program, and it's really great when you can say something like in 1797, and here's the first image of a California quail that anybody outside of California ever saw, and it doesn't say much about them, but it does say that they're delicious. And then you can you get to show someone a really pretty picture, you get to tell them a really cool story, you get to expose them to an interesting part of science that they might not even have thought of before. And I know that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, is sort of talking to people about how science has changed over the years and giving people these sort of stories and anecdotes that they can then really work into their programming or into their stories or into their articles that really sort of broaden the scope and enhance what they're telling. I know that we have a John James Audubon double elephant folio, Birds of America, at the Academy, and I give a lot of talks on it. And the looks on people's faces when you explain that Audubon ate so many of the birds that he depicts in the double elephant folio, the look on their faces is so fantastic, and they take that away and they remember it. And it's really nice to have that opportunity to do that in sort of various ways. You all know the collections you work with, you know the good stories. And I can't tell that story if I have to say, wait, I have a great story. Stay right there while I get the key to the rare book room, and I unlock it, and I pull this giant folio volume off the top shelf, and I clear off a spot on the table, and then I find the plate that I want, and by then you have left because you don't have time for that. So it's a really great way to actually get to tell some stories and to really broaden people's approach to scientific literature. Another way we do that is the get them in the door method. I can't put a beautiful rare book in the hands of every person who walks into my museum. And I can't put a rare book into the hands of every docent who works on the public floor and say, here, show people that. Because I just don't have the I don't have control of those things. I can't let those priceless works out the door for people. And as I said, we've got a very small staff, so the ability to actually do the kind of rare book show and tells that I want to do and that I love to do is a little bit limited. And one of the things I love about BHL is that when I do education classes for folks who work on the museum floor, or education classes for science educators, for teachers, for artists, I've done a lot of talks for illustration classes. I can show some of the amazing images in BHL, and I can show these really beautiful items. And almost every time I do something like that in a talk for educators or docents, I get people lining up saying, how do we see the real books? When can we come in? When can we book a tour? And I'm always happy to do that. It's a great outreach way. It's a no-risk way to show people how cool scientific illustration is, how neat legacy scientific literature is, in a way that you can actually handle and control and you can take with you. I would not pack up my Edward Donovan books and bring them with me somewhere like this. My insurance at the Academy does not cover that. But I can take this anywhere I want and show people how great these items are. And then when there's interest, we can then have people come in and actually book tours and look at the items themselves. Finally, this is my desk. That's really embarrassing. I can't believe I'm showing this.
Looks normal to me. Normal librarian's desk.
Yep, so that's my desk right there. You can see I'm actually working on this PowerPoint while I took this photo. I have a small library, I have a small staff, I have a small work area. I have dozens of projects and questions and queries going on at any given time. And I literally do not have room to have the literature that I would want at my fingertips in bound book form. And so one of the great things about BHL is it really lets me optimize my space and my time and my attention so that I can actually get a lot more work done, and I don't have to barricade my desk with book carts full of literature that I'm using for various questions. It's been really handy and a great time and space saver, and one that not just I use, but our archivists, our archivists and our digital projects manager use BHL constantly, often for proceedings of the Academy of Sciences, which are in there, when they're working on historical photo projects and they need to find out who's this guy and where was he and what was he doing there. They use the proceedings almost daily. I use our proceedings regularly, as well as a myriad of other publications that are in BHL. And it's great because I don't have to try to find space for them in this already.
It's been a terrific boon for us because all the Smithsonian published stuff that we used to be locked up in the Smithsoniana collection. It's now at our fingertips.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest uses for BHL for us is our own pubs. And it's made a huge difference in the amount of work we're actually able to accomplish because it's faster and it's easier. And it doesn't take up space on an already crowded desk. So, some of the other things that BHL is doing. We do have the ability for feedback and requests. One of the things about digital libraries and working with digital collections, of course, is that there's always a concern about losing touch with your users. And one of the great things about BHL is a lot of work has been done to ensure that that doesn't happen. So every page in BHL has a feedback link. And that's going to take you to a page like this. I call the subject user care and feeding because I think it's very important to remember that these people are still users and we still want to take very good care of them. And from the feedback area, you have the ability to have a comment or a question or to enter a request to actually scan a particular item, which is what this is. And you can see there are people who are assigned, people from the BHL staff group who are assigned to work on that. and also sort of related links and a comment thread that we can all work on. And I wanted to point out Grace, who is here right now. Grace is pretty much the primary contact for our user care and feeding for running the system. That's called Gemini. It's hosted by Missouri Botanical Garden and expertly customized for BHL needs. And this is how we manage a lot of our, actually that's how we manage most if not all of our customer care and scanning workflow. And it's been a really, really amazing addition. I'm going to talk up Grace while she's sitting here because I'm going to embarrass her. But it's been a great addition and is working really well in taking steps toward making this feel less like a physically removed repository of digital texts and more like a give and take representation, some sort of representation of a brick and mortar library where we really do have user contact.
So this is not visible to like the person who put in?
No, this is behind the scenes.
So who assigns like the priority and severity of?
Grace.
Okay.
Bianca does too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is I don't know if you were going to talk about it. So this is assigned to all those people. So those are all the librarians that are going to be working on this problem. And it turns out that this problem proves that the BHL is a collaborative work of all 12 libraries. It's the staff at all the libraries that make up the staff of BHL. So off the top, there's Smithsonian people, there's New York Botanical people, there's American, Diana's at American Museum of Natural History in New York, California Academy,
Missouri,
London, Missouri, everyone is involved on this.
Yeah.
It's Colin and everyone to Call of Arms, and everyone works on it together. So it's all the staff works on it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I like to point out. This is on my mind for a lot of different reasons, but it is there's such a big difference between throwing a bunch of literature online and saying this is a digital library and then actually making efforts to work with users. And I think that's one of the great things about BHL is that feedback isn't an email that goes into a box somewhere that somebody checks once a week and maybe forwards on to somebody. This is an integral part of the work we're doing. It takes a lot of Grace's time and a lot of Bianca Crowley's time, and it really is a great, great resource. We're all distributed all over the place, as Suze was saying. And it's such a great feeling to know that you can work on all of this stuff together to solve problems. I mean, if you're a reference librarian, you want to solve problems. That's why you got into this line of work. And it's really nice to be able to work together with all these folks to solve these problems, even though none of you are in the same room. And in some cases, none of you are in the same time zone. And it's a great feeling, and I think there's been a lot of success with this, and it has worked out really well for folks like me on the sort of back end, on the librarian end, and it seems to be working out nicely for users as well. If you've got further questions about how Gemini works, or you just want to chat about it, or you have feedback questions, you can definitely hit up Grace, and she can fill you in. Okay, so are we done? And we're really not. BHL's sort of never done. We're not half-baked. We're a work in progress. Or as Buffy the Vampire Slayer would say, we're cookie dough. Yes, I knew I would get a laugh for that. If you make a Buffy joke in front of librarians, someone will always laugh. Thank you. So we're a work in progress. There's a lot going on. Part of what makes BHL a little bit different than the library products you're probably used to using is the sort of rapid prototyping model. Stuff goes up while it's still being worked on. This isn't an out-of-the-box product. This isn't, you buy an ILS, a guy in a suit shows up, he leaves you lots of business cards and free pens, he installs everything, he walks away, and that's pretty much all you get. This is not how BHL works. So BHL works a bit on the sandbox approach, and I don't mean sandbox in the way of sort of web development sandbox or software development sandbox, but in the sense that part of what powers BHL is the ability of the various staff, who again are all over the place, the ability of various staff to kind of virtually get together, to work out problems, to try solutions, to test things, to experiment, and to play. And that's something that I can understand from a user end, because I would never stand up here and say that BHL is perfect and all of its search capabilities work fantastically, and I would never, ever, ever need another tool or want to use anything else, because that would be lying. But one of the great things about a project like BHL is that there's a lot of opportunity for input and growth and development from the people who are, making up the staff group on the back end, who are librarians like yourselves. There's also a lot of room to improve things based on feedback from users and from librarians like yourselves. If you see stuff about BHL that you like, submit feedback and tell us. And if you see stuff about BHL that you don't like, submit feedback and tell us, because we want it. Like anybody who's really immersed in a project, sometimes it's hard to see the forest for the trees. Other librarians say to me, gosh, you can find everything in BHL. And I say, well, it's because I'm in there all the time. So if you have problems with something, let us know. And again, if you like something, let us know. That's always good. Because those ideas are the sort of things that we can use to really get together, to play, to work, to talk, and to figure out where improvements and changes need to be made.
And I'd like to point out that they're not a big conglomerate like Institute of Scientific Information. I mean, something might actually get fixed.
Yes, we have, in just short periods of time, actually changed things based on staff issues and on user feedback. It really does happen, and it's because we're not a huge conglomerate who's out there, paying focus groups and groups of students to sit in a room and, tap away at things. We actually do really need that feedback if we want to keep growing, developing, and suiting people's needs. A term that I'm stealing from one of my colleagues in BHL is the term perpetually beta, which I really like. I feel like that sums up BHL really well. When we say, are we done? It's sort of like, well, no, we're never done. We're perpetually beta. And you can look at perpetual beta as a bad thing. There's Sisyphus with his boulder. You can look at perpetual beta as unfinished and imperfect and unready. I prefer to look at perpetual beta as flexible, adaptable, and extensible. There's always opportunities to change and evolve to fit changes in your user environment. And that's one of the things I think is great about perpetual beta. Because again, this isn't an out-of-the-box project. Nobody's come and dropped something on your desk with their suit and their free pens and left, and you never see them again, and now you're stuck on a help support line trying to make things work forever and ever. There's always abilities to change, and I think that's one of the things that's great about BHL. And I think as BHL has been around and grown and evolved, we actually are seeing things change before our eyes. So new things we have going on, there's SiteBank, which some of you may have heard of. SiteBank soft launched late last year, and we'll have a hard launch, I suppose you could say, in the spring. And SiteBank is, I'm actually going to get my notes for that, because SiteBank is new enough that I don't want to flub its description. Okay, so SiteBank is a repository that's developing, allowing for aggregation of content for upload of bibliographies and expert articles and searchable article level access, which if anyone works with the public or with reference, you know that the number one thing people want is to type something into a catalog or a search engine and get article level access. So that's something that SiteBank is actually working on developing. I can show you a little bit. Does people want to see a little bit of SiteBank?
Yes.
It's still under development. So it's a prototype. I'm forced to preface with that all the time so nobody at BHL hits me later or anything like that. But I've played around with it a bit. I encourage you to play around with it a little bit. It's an interesting tool. Again, soft launch, so I wouldn't get too into it. I'm sure things will change. But I'll just go right in and show you a little bit what it looks like. So, you can browse citations, you can look at recent publications, you can search. I'm going to do, I'll type in bats. See if I get anything. Okay. Oh, did I mean rats? No, I didn't.
What's the advantage of using SiteBank?
This is the article level access. Also, SiteBank is going to eventually serve as more of an aggregator, pulling in some content from other places as the plan currently exists. Again, prototype, soft launch. You guys are getting the sneak preview. You can also filter by year of publication, by keywords. It looks a lot like Zoological Record, actually, if you've used that resource a lot. You can click into any article.
Well, this is one of the things, is it might not be a full text
Yes,
anywhere.
that's what I was getting to.
Oh.
Yes. It might not be full text someplace. Obviously, the best case scenario would be that this is your one-stop shop for everything. But much like any database, like for example Zorecord, you may not find the full text from SiteBank. My track record's pretty good when I have poked around in SiteBank for finding full text, but that's not 100% there. So you kind of flip through. You can see this is a book from 2000. You're not going to find the full text of that. Wait, or do we?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's the URL.
Oh my goodness. That's a name URL. Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
No.
Well, I'm stunned. Look at that. How fantastic. That was unexpected. Well, there you go. So you will find a lot of full text. In case I didn't make it clear before, I know you're all familiar with BHL, so I didn't go into this, but the stuff that we're ingesting and that we're pulling into BHL, there's a large proportion of public domain pre-1923 literature, also post-1923 literature where arrangements have been worked out to deal with rights. So when people come up to the reference desk and say, I want this and it's pre-1923, BHL is often one of the first places I look. I go to BHL less as a first resort when it's from post-1923, unless I know the full run is in there. But as this obviously shows, there's a lot of post-1923 stuff going into BHL, so it's worth a look. So yeah, and it also gives you this more like this to the side. You can see things that have been put in recently, languages, which are nice. I'm actually going to go home real quick. Again, ability to browse, searching. No, it doesn't want me to search beyond that. There we go, sort of back to where we were, real quick. You can see there's nice options to filter your search, narrow things down. You can, once you've done a search, you can filter by author, by date, by keywords. There'll be some original publication information, publishers. It's a really good way. One of the things I think SiteBank will prove to be really valuable for is helping with that sort of example question of, it's blue and it was described, it's from Arizona, somewhere in your publications by this guy, I think, at some point. I think that SiteBank will actually be really good for helping to narrow that down, because it's got ability to drill down deeper than the BHL searches. But I've probably spent more time on SiteBank than the people at BHL would want me to, but we're librarians, we're all friends here, so it's definitely worth playing around with. All right, other new things. There is a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services called Connecting Content. The California Academy of Sciences is the lead institution on this grant. I'm a co-PI on this grant. It's called Connecting Content, and there are partnerships with all of these institutions you see listed here, all of whom are part of BHL. And our Smithsonian connection is a partnership with the Smithsonian Field Book Project. They're creating a registry of field books that will be online so that people can actually find field books. Field books are notoriously difficult to track down. Sometimes they're not cataloged they're usually not cataloged as part of library collections. They're sometimes cataloged with finding aids as part of archives collections. Sometimes they live in archives, a lot of times they live in departments, sometimes they're hidden. Well, they're often hidden, and it's often only the people with the inside knowledge who know how to actually find them. So Smithsonian is working to remedy this by using this CLEAR-funded project, Council for Library and Information Resources, to build a field book registry. In partnership with Connecting Content, they're going to open that field book registry so that the Connecting Content partners can all input their field book data. So Connecting Content involves, so I should be clear, the Smithsonian part of this involves creating the registry. The IMLS-funded part that I'm the co-PI on actually involves scanning the field notes as well as creating metadata records. And so field notes from the collections of the participating institutions will be scanned. And then some institutions will be imaging specimens as well, or imaging field notes that are related to already scanned specimens. So Connecting Content is going to help us gather information from specimens and from field notes. They're going to, it's going to allow us to ingest the scanned field notes into BHL so people will be able to access the copies of them. And we're going to be doing work that enables connecting data in the field notes and with the specimens to publish data in BHL. So this is our big, ambitious 3-year project. We just got the grant late last year, so we're just ramping up. We're actually going to have our first official partner meeting this week in Baltimore. So it's a new project. Keep your eye out if this is something that you're interested in. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're really excited about it, and we're really excited to be that BHL has the opportunity to open up the repository to primary source materials like this. A lot of programs that would not be too feasible, but we're really psyched that we're able to do this. Outreach, like any good Web 2.0 based, happy, open sourcey web program out there, we have a lot of outreach going on. You can find us all over the place, Flickr, Facebook, Twitter. This presentation, as well as many others, go up on SlideShare, so you can search BHL and SlideShare and find a wealth of information about Biodiversity Heritage Library, various talks that people have given at various institutions. Now it's time for questions, and we have some time for demoing and such, so don't be shy about wanting to go back and look more at anything. Anyone? Don't be shy.
I want to go back to the one that was post 23 that we found in BHL. I'm curious if that tab is still active in BHL that had the bats.
Sure.
I want to see if it was ingested, so it's not one of the 10 partners.
Okay. It's still trying to load the
Is
audio.
it that one?
No. I'll go back there. Oh, I think I have to go back to site.
It was Montana.
This one. Want me to go over to BHO?
Yeah, let's see who supplied it. Okay, so this was contributed by the Montana State Library to Internet Archive, and because it was on biodiversity, we decided to ingest it into BHL.
Yes, that would appear. There are some issues, I will point out. When you see something that's come from the contributing library and it says parentheses archive.org, that's come in as part of what, as Suzanne just mentioned, our ingest, where things that matched based on various subject-oriented criteria that were already in Internet Archive were ingested into the BHL portal. So this is one of those items. So this wasn't scanned by a partner institution, but by another institution, put up on Internet Archive, and then based on subject criteria, then ingested into the BHL portal, which means it's had all the good BHL stuff happen to it. So I want to look at it real quick. So it's got all of the great BHL things that go along with it. The persistent URLs. I'm guessing there's probably names if we get to pages with names.
I think you're on a blank
I'm on a blank page.
Do an even number.
Yep, so there you go. So it's got the names coming in as well. And as I mentioned before, but to be clear, so scanning and serving is done at Internet Archive, but when something comes into the BHL portal, it gets our special science bells and whistles added to it. So that's what happened. That's the sort of one of the reasons behind doing an ingest rather than just, say, linking out to stuff. But yeah, so this is something that was scanned by a different institution and pulled in based on subject criteria. If you see stuff in BHL that you think doesn't belong there, you can tell us via feedback, because those kind of, non-human powered things are not perfect. And so if you see anything in BHL that just totally blows your mind and you think, why is there tax documentation in here? Or I don't think it's appropriate to have a dog show pamphlet in here or something like that. Weird things have come in. We found some odd stuff. Definitely let us know through the feedback link, and where appropriate, we'll get rid of it. And it won't go away forever. It'll still be in Internet Archive, so don't feel bad. Like, someone might really want that hairdressing pamphlet, because it will still be available to anyone who wants it, just not in BHL. Yes?
How many languages does it you can search in?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. We have publication listings in all of these languages. I know I've personally searched in English, French, German, some Latin, probably pretty obviously, and Italian titles, and found all of them. Of course, you're going to run into problems anywhere you have non-text characters or diacritics or anything like that. But yeah, I mean,
with China is part of the group
Yes.
now, so what's happening for them with regard to searching?
Well, BHL Classic and BHL China are
two different.
They're affiliated, but it's going to be a different build-up from their end. I might ask Suze or Grace if you know anything about non-Latin character searching in BHL.
I know BHL Europe, who's developing their portal, is developing it for multi-language interface as well, so you'll be able to diacritics and those kind of things more easier. I think China right now is actually scanning English language literature.
My understanding is Internet Archive doesn't have OCRing of Chinese yet, or CJK at all, though they're investigating ways to do that. I don't think they are.
So China's contributing literature in their organizations that are published in English?
Yes. Right now.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah. But I do think there's work being done to do Chinese language.
Yeah.
Suzanne, was that a trick of the trade where you told her to go to the even pages when you wanted to?
Oh, I was just, Ron, I was just looking at the publication, and the very first page had that funky binding, and then she went to an odd page, and I could see through that it was the back page, it was the current page. So and it was 7. So I'm assuming that every even was the top page. That was the only thing that I was guessing on.
Although I will tell you, we are working to get a better pagination in BHL. That's a human thing, to fix all these things that say text, 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 and actually put in page numbers. But if you're looking at plates, very often it's in every other, because you've got a plate and then a blank. So if you're just trying to flip through plates, you can skip over. That's what I always do. But yeah, that's always a little bit of an issue sometimes when you don't have the pagination and actually trying to find exactly what you're looking for.
I will say, if there are any particular volumes or titles that anybody here knows they particularly want paginated, Gilbert, our new hire, is going to be working a lot with improving pagination. So submit those via the feedback button, and we'll get those done.
Can you hit the feedback button and let's look at that
Yes,
form?
I wanted to do that. Thank you for reminding me. So here's what you get when you click feedback. You can do a question or comment, which is pretty easy. Name, email. You can pick a subject as a technical suggestion or a bibliographic issue, like we need pagination, or the subjects for this are wrong, or anything like that. And then your comment. And should I put in one just so that you see what happens?
Sure.
Okay. Just do that real quick. I hate typing in front of an audience. I always mess up.
sure you're going to receive that while you're sitting there, right, Grace?
Yeah, probably. All right. So I have submitted it.
Now, it knows that you are on that book. That's what's
That's very
also-
handy,
That's
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
So you don't have to remember what book
Yeah,
you're
and so
on.
you don't have to rely on the user to fill in the title number or anything like that. It'll actually know that you're there.
And then everybody can't see, but it just came in, so this is our issue tracking system. And
What's your backlog grade?
What's that?
What's the backlog for workload for you?
Well, we're all working, there are 813 issues still open, but
Wow.
they're assigned to
Wow.
everybody's working on them.
And how do you
so.
know who's working on what part of that, so you're not crossing?
Each issue has, as Becky showed in one of her slides, people who are assigned to it.
Uh-huh.
And the people assigned to it leave comments
Uh-huh.
saying what they're
I can
doing.
go to that
So that
slide.
helps us know, who's doing what, and we're not kind of stepping on each other's toes or
Right,
doing
right,
the
right.
same work.
Yeah.
So, and there's email notifications, so whenever issues are updated or when people add comments, people assigned to issues get emails, so they know what other people are doing.
And the
on the
software
issue
for that
too.
is Gemini, you said?
It's by Countersoft is the company, but Gemini is the name of the software.
Yeah, and this what you see down here, which I didn't capture because it's got all of it's got information that I don't know if we want you or need you to see. This is the comment thread going on, so all of these people assigned to this issue are commenting on various parts of the issue. And when you talk about a backlog, for example, like I've probably got, Grace can embarrassingly tell me right now probably how many open Gemini requests I have, but I'm generating scanning for Internet Archive directly from Gemini. So I probably have like 60 open requests because I'm actively working on that. And when the stuff is scanned and I get it back, I'll close the request because I'll be done.
So do you send an email back to the people who, or the comment person? Do you?
Oh, the people
feedback?
who
Yeah.
comment, there
Yeah.
is a BHL email address
Uh-huh.
that gets responses. And sometimes those responses are farmed out to staff if it's something that a staff member can
But the
address better.
person who asked
The
it
person who asked gets
gets
feedback
feedback
back?
about how the
Yes.
progress of it
Yes.
is. Yeah.
On the progress.
Well, they get that their request has been received and an answer if they need an answer.
Yeah, if there's further work.
Yeah.
But we usually, because it's just too labor intensive for the amount of people we have
Right.
working on this, for every single one to tell every single user when it comes up.
Right.
In the initial email we send, we give the RSS feed link to them and tell them when your thing is scanned, it will come up in this feed. So if you monitor the feed, you'll see it come up.
And sometimes their question is something that actually requires a direct answer,
Mhm.
and if that direct answer is better served by one of these folks, Grace or Erin or Bianca will farm it out to us, and then we'll actually, one of us will address that question from the BHL email account.
Well, Becky, I'm running out of memory, so you have to finish.
I see a question in the back.
Very good.
Yes, very simple request. It's just, I don't think I was looking at the right thing. I was trying to do very recently a search on Coffea arabica, and I
Okay.
just want images.
Ah,
Just images. I don't want the text, and without, I had problems pulling up just images. Suggestions.
okay. I wish I had good suggestions. We're working on that. We've talked a lot about the fact that a lot of people want images from BHL, and we currently don't have an easy way to get them. It kind of breaks me because I know that those are things that I often want too and that I want for users. There's a couple of things that you can do that can be helpful. Under the subjects, there is a pictorial
There you go.
works subject. So if you have an idea of sort of what you're looking for, but you see there's only 372 titles that say pictorial works, and that's
That's
nothing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
because only if it was really pictorial works would
Right.
the catalog record reflect it.
exactly. So it's not great. It can. I know I will sometimes go there. Someone's like, I need a picture of a beetle, and I'll be like, fine, and I'll go there and I'll find something. But it's really not the best. What I do, and it's not wonderful. This is like one of those sort of ninja librarian things where you sort of have to pull in different resources from different areas. I'll look at the botanical bibliography works that tell you where the good images are, and then I'll go and see if we have them in BHL. That's generally what I do. I consult the standard bibliographies of illustration of zoological and botanical illustrations, and then go back and look at BHL. But I have been pushing really hard. We have a new thing where there's collections where you can specify collections of items, like this is Materia Medica, or this is from the Rare Books of Missouri Botanical Garden. I would really, really like, and I've been kind of lobbying for this, to have one for these are fine illustrated works or something like that to help narrow down the searching process, because it's not easy, unfortunately. But yeah, I end up consulting the bibliographies and then going to BHL. So.
Well, I ended up going to EOL, which has images, and then.
I do that sometimes too. I'll look at the images in EOL and then find them, or I'll hit up Google Images,
That's
and when
what
I
Google
find
Images.
good looking illustrations, I'll go and figure out where those are from and then look them up in BHL. So it's certainly not seamless.
Do we have on our search screen those collections? Do we still have those drop downs? I can't remember.
There's the collections. There's
So-
only a couple so far.
So it would be interesting if you all ever thought of collections that you think should be here, if we should put any unique grouping and artificial collection level access to something like that, that we could then collect somehow or another, search within. That might be something interesting that we want to think about.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to, I really want one of these collections to be, illustrated works.
Right.
Can you go to SiteBank again?
I
Is there
can.
anything faceted on the side there that would help us with
For
images?
illustrations, not that I have noticed, but let's go look.
Have any ideas?
There's no advanced search there? Oh.
The entry search is it's soft launch, perpetually
Picky.
beta, soft launch. So let's look at the facets. Year, keywords, author.
What a shame.
I know. Other people don't think like librarians think.
So hit feedback and say you want it.
But we do, and that's something we appreciate, especially because, as I mentioned, and now is recorded for all posterity. I really want that to be something you can do.
There you go.
So send us feedback, and hopefully you'll give me some support there that that's a collection that we need to work on developing. Anything else? Okay. Well, I'm around for the rest of the day and part of the day tomorrow. So, come find me. And also, I have information. There's me. Thank you to the people listed in particular for bringing me here and helping me out. You can find me, Armorin at calacademy.org, or go to the Cal Academy website. I'm easy to find. You can follow me on Twitter, where I tweet mostly about library science and hockey. So if you like hockey.
So you're betraying your Canadian roots here, huh?
Yes, exactly. So, yes, and if you have any questions, like I said, I'm not running away anytime soon.
Thank you so much.